Hey, it's James from Mission, and this is a quick introduction to the Mission 529 USB power converter. Ready? Let's go. Right, so what is the 529 power converter? Very simply, it's a device that takes a USB 5 volt power input and converts it into 5 isolated 9 volt outputs to drive pedals. So what are the use cases for this? Why would you use this compared to any other sort of power supply? Well, let's take some examples here. Here's an Earthquaker Devices Eruptor. This can use a 9 volt battery, or it can use an external 9 volt power supply. This is pretty typical of effects pedals that we all use today. 9 volt batteries are handy because they're easily available and you can change them inside the pedal here. The challenge to them is that if I'm going to mount this permanently on a pedal board, now I've got to remove it. If I have Velcro on the underside, maybe I have to unstick that. Then I've got to remove the 4 screws here. I've got to switch the battery over, put it all back together, stick it back on the pedal board. Now this may be okay if I have 1 or 2 pedals, but it's going to get to be a bit of a pain. If I have a large pedal board that has maybe 9 or 10 devices on it, maintaining those batteries is going to take a while. Also, if they're just disposable batteries, then it's not especially environmentally friendly to keep buying batteries and then throwing them in the trash. I can use rechargeable batteries, for example, but even then you're still up against the same situation where you've got to keep taking the pedal apart to swap that over. And rechargeable batteries typically are not going to last as long either, so I'll have to do that more often. Another issue with using 9 volt batteries is that not all devices these days take them. So for example, I have 4 pedals here. I have the Eruptor, which does. I also have an Eventide mixing link, an Eventide H9, and Pictronics Quantum. And out of those, only the Eruptor actually runs from an internal 9 volt battery. The rest of them all need external power. So most people with more than a few pedals or pedals that don't take batteries have to use external power. They can either use a whole bunch of wall warts and stack them all up, which is not especially convenient. So what most of us do is use something like this, which is a AC to DC pedal board power supply. This takes an AC supply here and then gives us a bunch of 9 volt outputs to connect to our pedals. A couple of disadvantages to this. One is you always need power, so you have to be able to connect up to an AC supply, which depending on what you're doing may not be convenient. You have to run power cables out to your pedal board, and lots of people want to run batteries on a small light pedal board. Maybe you're playing outside, you're playing a coffee shop show, or you're doing a demo and you need to run on batteries, and this is not super convenient then. Also, because the AC to DC conversion is done in the unit itself and we have transformers in here, sometimes these can generate noise. And you may have noticed that if you have a power supply and you put a wah pedal, for example, on top of the power supply, that you get hum or buzz in the signal that's being induced inside the wah pedal from sitting on top of the power supply. Not really anything much you can do about it. That's how AC to DC power supplies work. So you can move that off to somewhere else, or you can use a battery-powered device like the 529. What the 529 does is it takes a USB power input and it converts it to 5 9 volt outputs to power your pedals. Now the beauty of this is that this can be any 5 volt USB power supply. For example, it can be a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, like we have here, and it doesn't matter which one it is, really. This is the one that we will supply with the 529, but there are plenty of them that are available across lots of different price points, lots of different capacities. You can get waterproof ones, you can get drop-proof ones, you can get very tiny ones that go inside a shirt pocket, depending on what it is you need. And when the battery eventually reaches the end of its life and can't be recharged anymore, you can just throw it away and then you can get another one. If this one runs down, lots of people these days have 2 or 3 of these, and you can use any rechargeable battery that gives you a 5 volt output. You can borrow one from a friend in an emergency. You can keep a spare one in a car. The one that you use for your phone or for your tablet, you can use that. Pretty much anyone will work the 529, so you're never going to be short of battery power supply. But because it's the USB standard, it doesn't have to be a battery. So for example, this will come with 529, which is a wall power supply. So you just plug that into the wall, run your USB cable into the 529, and then that will drive your pedals. This again can be the one that comes with it, or it could be just about any wall USB power supply. The one that came with your phone is going to work. One thing you'll notice with certain modern digital pedals is that they can sometimes put some noise on the AC line, and that can get into the audio signal. And you'll find that lots of people that are talking about pedal board power supplies require isolated outputs, or ask for isolated output. And that's something that you don't commonly see on battery type solution. For example, I have seen some systems that are being offered right now, which are lithium-ion batteries, kind of like this, but they have a 9-volt output. So they have a single 9-volt barrel connector where you can plug in pedals and then drive them from a lithium-ion battery. The problem with these is that they only have a single 9-volt output, so to drive more pedals you have to chain them together with a daisy chain cable, and that means those power supplies are not isolated, and that can cause noise on the audio part. These are all isolated, so you won't have that issue. The other thing that you'll need to watch with a power supply is certainly when using some of the modern digital devices like this H9, for example. The current draw on these is much higher. It needs to drive the digital chips inside, and the LCD display, those kind of things require a lot more power. So we have a 500 milliamp output here on the 529 that will drive those digital pedals. And then we have the four 150 milliamp outputs that will drive your lower current pedals like these. What if you want to do more? So one thing you can do with the 529 is, because it has both a USB input and a USB output, I can connect my battery to the input, and then I can connect a second 529 to the output and chain them together. That will allow me to drive up to 10 pedals from one USB power supply. Another handy thing about this is, because of the way in which it works, it's very small and it's very light, and we've designed it to be able to fit in the most restrictive of pedal board spaces. So if you're using something small like a pedal train nano, for example, this will fit up on the underside of the pedal train nano, and you don't need to do anything fancy. It doesn't take up any space. It's also super light. Another thing you may want to do is, when running from batteries, if you do have access to AC power supply, you might want to charge your battery and drive your pedals at the same time. So let's try that. Let's take our battery here, and we'll plug that into a battery charger, and we'll plug that into wall power. So now we can see that our battery is charging. Okay. Now we'll take the USB out, plug that into here, into here. So now I'm driving the 529 from my lithium-ion rechargeable battery, and I'm also charging it at the same time. Now, because this particular battery pack is able to take an input charge and drive two outputs at the same time, I could also, if I wanted to, plug my phone into here and then charge that up at the same time as well. Then when my power goes away, when I disconnect from the AC, then I'm still driving my pedals from the battery. And if this battery runs down, I can just switch it out and plug another battery. Also, because it's the USB standard here, it doesn't have to be a lithium-ion battery. I could run it as well from the USB wall power supply, but I can also run it from other devices. So for example, I have a desktop computer here. So if I plug into the USB output on there, I can plug that onto the USB input here. And now I can run all my pedals from the USB power supply that I have on my computer. So that's kind of useful if you're on a workbench like I am here. Use this all the time for that. But if you're in a recording studio and you're using a digital audio workstation and you just want to add some pedals on your mixing desk, you can do that, and you can power them now from the computer. You don't need to rig up a AC power supply like this each time you just want to run one or two pedals in your digital audio workstation. Alright, so that's about it. Those are some of the use cases that I could think of for the Mission Engineering 529 USB power converter, and why you might use it as opposed to batteries or a traditional pedalable power supply. Alright, thanks for watching. See you again next time.